Support for this project is provided by the Dairy Business Innovation Initiative through Fresno State University. Visit our website at dairypcc.net for more information and other resources in the dairy industry. Program funding for the PCC comes from the USDA. For more information on this and other programs, visit usda.gov for the PCC Dairy Business Innovation Initiative. Support for this podcast comes from the Department of Agricultural Education and Communication at Cal Poly. Visit aged.calpoly.edu to view our majors and support our programs. That's aged.calpoly.edu for the Department of Agricultural Education and Communication at Cal Poly.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Aguiar, and welcome to You, Me, and the PCC, a dairy products podcast brought to you by the Pacific Coast Coalition. Like I said, my name is Joe Aguiar. I'm a second-year agricultural communication student here at Cal Poly with minors in agribusiness and water policy. I'm also joined by my co-host, Kaylen Jaime, who I'll let introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Kaylen Jaime, and I'm also a second-year agriculture communication student, but I am minoring in agribusiness and law and society, and I'm thrilled to be Joe's co-host for the next few episodes.
Cool. And we are also joined by a student panelist who I'll let introduce herself.
Hi everybody, my name is Isabella Ribeiro, and I am also a second-year ag communications student with a minor in agribusiness. And I am so excited to be here because I've grown up on my family's dairy my entire life. I worked as the bookkeeper this last summer, and then I'm working for a processing company this summer. So I'm super excited to learn about this program.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, we are joined by our very special guest, Dr. Carmen Licon. So Dr. Licon is the director of the Pacific Coast Coalition and Dairy Business Innovation Initiative, as well as being the director of the Dairy Products Technology Center here at Cal Poly. So I'll let Dr. Licon talk a little bit about herself and her background. So,
hi everyone, I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation. So yes, I have also a dairy processing background. I'm a food engineer by training, and then I did my PhD and master's in Spain on dairy products, specifically on cheese. So I based my research on product development, especially cheese again, but I'm also working in other projects like reusing whey, for example, to make a whey beer. And I am the director of the Pacific Coast Coalition, the project that we'll be talking about today.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you. What do we have next? So, your role at Cal Poly as the Dairy Products Technology Center. We kind of want to dive into that a little bit and kind of talk about that center. And how would you explain the Dairy Products Technology Center to someone that isn't overly familiar with these sorts of production units?
So the Dairy Products Technology Center is the research center for the dairy program, but that is solely focusing on dairy processing side of things, right? So we have the dairy at Cal Poly, and the dairy will be specialized on the milk production side. But then the Dairy Products Technology Center will be specialized on what do we do when we receive the milk all the way until we sell the product. But more specifically, we provide technical assistance and services to businesses that require consulting, for example. We also conduct research. We offer short courses and continuing education that is open to multiple dairy businesses, even to entrepreneurs. So we deal with everything except the teaching part. We also have students, undergrad and graduate students, working with us for certain research projects, but we don't do the teaching part.
Is the student involvement strictly just to the research projects, or are there other ways that students can be involved at the center?
We have multiple students working with us for short courses, for example, to help with the design of the flyers, to contact the speakers, to help us with the activities that we do, because all our short courses, they have a hands-on component. So every time we have a short course about cheese making, we'll be making cheese, right? And we need support, we need help, so the students get involved in that as well.
Is there a devoted, I don't know how to say this, but like a devoted space on campus where you guys operate, or are you sharing spaces with the dairy and the creamery? How does that work?
We share space with the creamery. We are in the same building. We're housed in the same building. We share offices, but that is our space. That is the building for the DPTC and the creamery. And that is intentional because there's a lot of collaboration between both entities.
What does that collaboration look like?
Well, the creamery is the facility that will be used for production and to provide opportunities for students and for the classes. While the DPTC has a pilot plant, and that pilot plant is used for some classes, but also for the short courses and for the technical assistance or services that we provide. So we really use the same building. We're just separated by a wall, and sometimes we even share equipment. For example, the cheese making room is just a room that contains all equipment related to cheese making, and is used by the production side, the creamery, and is also used by the DPTC or pilot plant scale equipment.
So, Bella, as a student on Cal Poly, we are constantly reiterated the importance of learn by doing and being ready day one in the workforce. What is kind of the impact of having the Dairy Products Technology Center on campus?
Well, my brother's actually a dairy science major, so I'm sure he's used the facilities that you guys provide. And I just think it's so important for those students who want to go into those areas to have that technology available, because dairy processing isn't something that you can just learn on paper. I think it's really important that they're learning those things hands-on. That way they're ready to go into the workforce. And I know that companies love to see that kind of experience. So Cal Poly being able to provide that is so important and so neat.
You know, it's huge. I mean, being able to go onto the job, I know they say this a lot, but being ready day one is huge. It separates us from leaps and bounds compared to kids that are coming from other agricultural universities where they may not be getting the access to some of these facilities until they're juniors, seniors, or even graduate level students. So it's huge that our students are able to access these levels of facilities very early on and able to get a hands-on experience already.
So one thing that I know Joe and I even mix up a little bit is a lot of times students at Cal Poly know about the creamery, they know about the dairy, but how can we make sure we know the difference between the Dairy Product Technology Center, and then those entities on campus?
Well, the difference is really that we lead with dairy processors or businesses that require services, like the technical assistance in the short courses, as I said. And the creamery will be the unit that it's making cheese and ice cream for sale. And it's also providing opportunity for students to work on campus, right? So basically is if we can think about the dairy science program and the dairy processing side, we have the education that goes into the creamery, but then we have research and extension or outreach that goes into DPTC. That's why we are always working together, but our purpose is a little bit different.
Yeah, everything in the college is kind of united in that way.
Yeah, they're all kind of intermixed. So you mentioned something about students being involved in short courses. What do some of these short courses look like, and what are students doing in these?
So short courses that we'll have 4 upcoming this 2024. We're already in February. We have a conference that we organize that is a dairy innovation conference that's coming up by the end of February, and we have students helping with a lot of preparation that requires a conference, right? Like we have samples that we are handing out to the attendees. We have all the presentations to put together. We have the bios, we have all the name tags, the flyers, etc., etc. And then for the short courses, we have one coming up in March that is Hispanic and Mediterranean cheesemaking. We have another one in May that's for advanced unit operations in the dairy industry. And then we have advanced cheesemaking in July. And for the 3 short courses, we again have students helping out and reaching out to speakers so we can get the bios, the presentations. We have bags that we hand out. We have also samples. So anything that we need into like the day-to-day basis for the short course, we need the students to be there and support.
And how can students get involved with stuff like this?
Well, they can send us an email or come by the creamery or the DPTC and just let us know that you would like to get involved, and we'll start from there.
Cool. That's really, really cool. So, yeah, I think now we're going to also turn to what the public thinks kind of about dairy products and how they feel. So I think we're going to do a little bit of some man on the street interviews.
What kind of milk do you prefer?
2%. It's just what I grew up with.
I agree.
I'm kind of like lactose intolerant. Milk is milk though, so I'll still drink like whole milk or something. Yeah. I don't drink milk that much.
Whole milk. Used to be a 2% person. My mom started drinking whole milk, and then I started drinking whole milk. Now I might be lactose intolerant, so like.
What kind of milk do you prefer?
Chocolate milk. Definitely not strawberry. Strawberry's foul.
I'd say just oat milk because that's all I can drink. So yeah. Usually oat milk.
Oat milk.
Oh, is this like actual milk?
Oat milk or almond milk?
Thanks for watching.
So now we're going to move into some more talking points. So now we're going to kind of talk about the PCC and DBII, and we're going to dive into your involvement, Dr. Licon, and some of the history behind the project and all of that information. So how did the PCC/DBII start?
So the DBI, Dairy Business Innovation Initiatives.
A little bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, DBI, so PCC, DBI, Dairy Business Innovation Initiatives. It started by the USDA. So in 2019, they provided funding that comes from the Farm Bill appropriation through the Congress and then through the USDA to provide support to dairy businesses or the dairy industry in general. So in 2019, the USDA started with 3 DBIs: Wisconsin, Vermont, and Tennessee. Then in 2021, they opened again a call for proposals to apply for a 4th DBI. So that's how California applied via Fresno State, and we got the funding for the 4th DBI. So these DBIs, they have very specific purposes. We are entities that we don't have necessarily like a physical building, but they are managed by an institution. In this case, this PCC DBI is managed by Fresno State, right? And we're responsible to fulfill all the objectives of the USDA or the USDA wants us to do. And this is specifically to support dairy businesses. In our case, we cover California, Oregon, and Washington. And then we got different funding from the USDA to cover also Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. In our region, we realized that the dairy processors or manufacturers are the one that need more support compared to the dairies, because the dairies are so big here in California. And at first we received only 1.8 million, that the impact of our projects wouldn't be that big just because of the size of the dairies. But we do have a lot of artisanal production and smaller production. So our emphasis is on dairy processing. So as long as the businesses receive the milk and put it in a bottle, make cheese, ice cream, whatever manufacturing or unit operation they use, that will be considered a dairy processor. And we provide grants to them so they can apply to get new equipment, they can apply to expand their option of products that they make, new product development. But we also realize that there's a lot of need in our higher education institutions. Just like Fresno State and Cal Poly, we have creameries and we have pilot plants that need a lot of help and funding to support the dairy businesses, right? Because smaller dairy businesses, they always need someone to tell them, well, if I need a new product, I need help sometimes, right? They cannot afford to get a consultant. So they come to universities, so we help. And we're also investing in higher education institutions. So we have partners across California, Oregon, and Washington, as I said. We work with multiple universities to support, again, all comes back to the dairy businesses. And it's important to emphasize that this is not a research grant. Everything we do is to support the processors.
So you talked about multiple different funding opportunities for the state, both inside California and outside, and then some of those objective statements that the USDA makes sure that we follow to help those dairy businesses. Can you touch on maybe what a few of those are for examples?
Yes. So one, as I said, is to expand the options of products that they can produce, to expand where they sell the products. For example, if they want to go to more farmers market, or if they want to secure a new piece of equipment so they can have a higher production yield to go to Costco. Those will be examples that will apply for the Dairy Business Innovation Initiatives. Then after we got the first funding, we got also funding from the COVID relief funds to support some producers or processors if they struggled during COVID and they needed to kind of get on their feet again. And we have a special part of the funding that is for COVID recovery situations, right? Because we know that the industry in general is struggling because we are in a time where all the equipment is getting old and we need a lot of replacements. And also, on top of that, we had COVID, right? So, and also employees that they need to, the turnaround and they need to hire. So that's another important point, that we are investing our money in the PCC for training and education opportunities. So the PCC also supports and helps, again, the DPTC through their short courses and other institutions like Oregon State to organize short courses so that we can provide educational opportunities for employees and we can attract more people to the dairy industry because we also need workforce.
What's the process for applying for a grant through the DBII for dairies? How do they do that? How is the amounts determined? How does that work?
So we have a call for proposal that opens yearly in January and it closes by the end of February. And we have multiple categories. We have up to 1 million that they can apply for, and they can be like from 0 to 1 million, let's say, right? And we divide in multiple categories that I have somewhere here. We have 1 million, and then we have 500,000, 250,000, 150K, right? We have available 4.1 million per year until 2026. So this is the last year that we'll have 4.1 million. Next year, I think it's 3, and then the following year is less, unless the USDA renews our grants, right? We have secure funding until the end of 2026. So for that application, they can go to our website, dairypcc.net. We have an online application that they fill out. It's a Google form that's very simple, and we collect some information about the businesses, where they located. We need an objective, a work plan, and a budget. So they need to be very specific about what they want to do. And we also have on our website 9 areas of emphasis that we as PCC want to emphasize our grants for, but they are aligned with the overall USDA DBIIs. And I don't have on top of my head all of them, but as I said, it's for new product development, for expansion of markets, for export. That's also very important if they want to start exporting product, right? For new equipment, for sustainability, for new packaging to reduce waste, for example. That's also, and to expand the usage of milk. So if they have an idea about starting using milk to make cosmetics, for example, that's also another emphasis area that we focus about.
So you've talked about some of these emphasis areas, production, packaging, equipment. That's what some of these producers are using their money for. Where have you seen it being used the most by these dairy producers? What have they been putting the grant money towards the most in their own operations?
So far is equipment. Yeah. So we funded most of it. It's been equipment. Some of it will be product development, consulting, validation studies for our new product, for example, to do the shelf life or to work on the formulations. But most of it's been equipment.
So these key points are huge. Bella, you grew up on the dairy and you've been seeing this your whole life. How do you see these key points kind of playing out throughout the industry?
There's definitely a need for more help in the processing area. There was actually a business in my hometown, and they bottled their own milk and they sold it, and they just had to stop doing it because they couldn't afford it anymore. They weren't making money at all.
Yeah.
So it's definitely really important that we're supporting those processors, especially the small ones.
Yeah.
Because my family's a part of a co-op, so it's this huge company that has tons of support. Little businesses, they need something like the Pacific Coast Coalition that's going to give them extra help whenever it comes to that stuff. So.
The majority of the California dairies, as we've been researching, as we know, are family owned, and that's huge.
I believe according to California Milk, it's 99% of California dairies are family owned, and it's 1,100 of them, I believe, if I did the math right. So.
Our little fun facts.
Yeah, sprinkling them in there. It's
Yeah,
really, really cool.
It's definitely majority family owned. I have barely seen any commercial big dairy farms, so.
Do you think that's often like a misconception maybe of the dairy industry?
It's a huge misconception. I mean, people think that these are giant factory farms, where my family, we're on the 4th generation, and that's how most of them are. They're passed down through generations, and the families are able to continue in those businesses. And I think that's something so unique to the dairy industry, being able to carry that on. And it's hard in today's market with the milk prices. So government support is really imperative to the way that we're functioning, and programs like this are helping us.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Cool. And I know, just one last point. I know, Bella, you mentioned about milk prices and how they seem to be not trending or doing the well. Dr. Licon, have you seen more applications for the grant money due to that? Is there a correlation between milk prices and the grant money being sent out? Is there any kind of correlation there?
I wouldn't know if it's about the milk price in itself, but what I can tell is that some of the milk producers now they're trying to expand the options of products that they have, what we call value added, right? So instead of boiling milk that will not sell well or will have more losses because of the shelf life and you have to sell it fresh and all that, right? They are trying to transform their milk into cheese or cream or butter, because you can keep the milk for longer, right, by transforming it to cheese, and then you can sell it at a higher product. And you can even transport it farther away, right? So that is what I see, the expansion of the options of the products that they will offer.
Has that expansion also occurred maybe because of the marketing with the milk alternatives?
I will say it's not necessarily related with the milk alternatives, but it's a trend about, I mean, it is, of course, because it's about demand, right? But numbers are showing that we don't necessarily being affected by the plant-based beverage, right? It's not like, okay, now the consumers are having 50% more and 50% less of milk, right? It's not that direct. However, we do see the trend about consumers consuming less milk, fluid milk. But for example, cheese is very strong, ice cream is very strong, frozen specialties, as we call them, are very strong. Butter is on the rise. Now fat is going back, right? And the fact that there are multiple products that offer healthy benefits on top of, you know, like an ice cream with high protein or yogurt with high protein, that is also something that the producers now see the consumers they need, right? So they are expanding their offers to go towards those type of products.
Yeah, it's really cool just kind of knowing that, yeah, there's more of a demand for maybe less true milk, but these milk-based, dairy-based products are becoming more and more popular, and it's really cool to see. It's really, I think, reassuring, because especially you see, oh, you've got your oat milks, your soy milks. I mean, you can walk to a grocery store and you see it everywhere, but it's still really cool to know that these products are still taking off and they're still doing really, really well. So,
with the start of this program, is there anything that sticks out that you personally are super excited for?
I'm just excited about being part of this project, and you know, like my day-to-day work, it's having an impact on multiple families. And I get I don't know how to explain it, but I will say I read all the applications that we get through the PCC, and it's just so moving to read how this funding is really making the difference to a lot of families and a lot of businesses. And I am just honored to be part of it, right? To be able to give back through my work to the dairy industry.
That's amazing to hear. You get little shivers maybe when you read those applications.
Yeah, they're very moving.
That's good.
are there any applications that Are there any applications that particularly resonated with you when you saw them?
Well, we have applications that goes all the way from someone having a cow that they want to start milking and making cheese out of one single cow.
Wow.
Yeah. All the way to, processors that have been there for 7 generations.
That is crazy.
Right? They want to keep their business afloat or maybe change the way they're doing things and bringing the new generation in. We also have multiple businesses that they are not related with the dairy industry at all. It's first generation. They really want to make it work. They live on the farm, right? And they have their 5 children there, and everyone is just helping and trying to support the small communities. We also have co-ops that is for nonprofit. We have one that they are just doing it to support the schools that are around the rural areas. And yeah, so I don't know, like all of them, they have something behind.
That's such a wide range. I would have never expected to have such a big kind of span of all the applications that you're getting in.
Yeah, it's just very exciting to see, and we truly hope we had funding to help every single one of them. Unfortunately, we don't, and it's hard to make those decisions, but it's fulfilling to see and to know that, again, like we're doing this for the good of the industry, and we're helping.
I'm sure it has to be really fulfilling knowing that your work is making a huge difference, not only across California, but across the Western United States as a whole. So I'm sure it's really, really fulfilling. So I think we're going to cut to one more man on the street interview and kind of get some more public perception on dairy.
What is your favorite dairy product?
Chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk.
Do you know where chocolate milk comes from?
Cows? What do you mean?
Cows?
So this is a tough one. Milk.
Good answer. What's your favorite dairy product?
Ice cream.
What flavor?
Okay, so Cal Poly has a really good flavor called mud pie.
That uses chocolate milk. Where do you think chocolate milk comes from?
Cows, but not like chocolate cows.
What is your favorite dairy product?
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Ice cream?
Yogurt. Sour cream.
Oh, for sure, pepper jack cheese.
Okay, that's a new one.
Probably. I'm really considering this. Yogurt? Cheese. Cheese.
Cream cheese.
Kefir. Mango milk.
Wow. What is that?
It's a brand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what is?
It's like a local dairy.
Okay.
All right, so we got to see a little more man on the street action. So we're going to keep talking about the PCC DBII's relevance within the dairy industry. So has there been really excitement about applying for some of these grants? Is it something that farmers are actively looking for? Is it just something that kind of pops up on them, and how does that work?
Yeah, so we started, as I said, in 2021, right? So at first, our first round of funding, we got 30 applications or so. We were able to fund 8 of them. But then the next year, we received 50 applications. And this year, as we are spreading the word about the PCC and the grants, we received so many inquiries about the grants that we know for sure that we'll receive way more applications than last year. So the excitement is growing just because the first year, not everyone was aware of the opportunity, and we've been very active about going to multiple organizations to talk about what's coming up and the grants and the opportunities that they have, because it's not only about the grants. The businesses, they can also apply for internships and they can get reimbursed. So they want to hire students, they can get reimbursed through the grant, and they can also apply to technical assistance. So if they need consulting time, they can also apply for that, and we have separate funds that will reimburse them to get consultants time. And we have all these multiple opportunities for short courses and education that they can also get. So it's more than the grants, really. It's about forming networks as well with the universities, right? And yeah, now I think they know, because we've been actively, as I said, going and talk in multiple events and venues about the grants.
So we've mentioned the universities. Maybe listeners don't understand how that exactly plays a role. Could you clarify how that plays a role in this overall program with the PCC?
Yes. So Fresno State, it's the main institution that is managing the grant. So that means they receive the funds and then they redistribute the funds to everyone else, right? So Cal Poly is a big partner in this grant, and Cal Poly receives funds from Fresno State but through the PCC, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
And just as Cal
That's how the
Poly is
money
doing,
moves.
we also have Oregon State University, we have Chapman, we have Washington State, and we have other universities involved in different ways into the grant. So every activity and everything that happens through the PCC is administered through Fresno State.
So Fresno State's kind of the medium that these actions take place through? Is that kind of how I'm understanding it?
Yeah, kind of. It will be the middleman between the USDA and the rest of the grants and contracts that we have to sign with everyone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
That flow makes sense.
Yeah, now it kind of makes sense now you've painted that out. So I kind of wanted to go back to how you're talking about spreading the word and how applications are increasing. So how are you guys spreading information about it? Is it word to mouth going and meeting with dairy producers? Is it social media? How is that working?
So I will say all of the above, right? In every single conference that we have, we talk about the grants. And then we are invited to speak at multiple events. So we just attended the Oregon Cheese Guild Educations Day or Cheesemaker Educations Day 2 weeks ago. So we talked with all cheesemakers that attended about the grants. We also have social media accounts. And then we have, through all our partners, they also are helping us to disseminate the word. So if Oregon State has a list of businesses that they regularly send newsletter or information or news, that's what they do. We've been very active as well on releasing or having press releases, right? So we are on the news of multiple venues in multiple, like magazines, the cheese, I don't remember all the names, but like multiple of them, right? And then also when we meet with an industry that is supporting our students, right? Or they are coming for a short course, or they are part of our advisory boards, we always talk about it and they know. So also mouth to mouth is being playing into this. But we've been active trying to just have press releases everywhere.
Yeah, so as we're wrapping up here, there is a lot of outreach happening to continue to make the PCC possible throughout the dairy, throughout the universities, all because of the USDA.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, that's really cool that we're able to receive funding and opportunities through that. So I think that's just been something that's been really, really interesting. Belle, I kind of want to get your input on this. How do you feel about kind of some of this input from larger institutes and groups that are able to help these small dairies and stuff and opportunities that are available to students? What have you seen? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. My ag policy class has been talking about government intervention, and it is just so imperative in a company or an industry like the dairy, just because of market prices are always fluctuating. And with that fluctuation, it's nearly impossible for a dairy farm to stay afloat. So that's why I think it's really important that we have companies like this working with the USDA, able to carry out those programs. Otherwise, dairy farmers wouldn't be able to do what they do.
They help stable the flexibility a little bit to make sure that everything continues to be smooth as far as the consumer standpoint is.
Right, and it's important to a stable food supply too. So
that really is critical.
It's critical that the government intervenes.
I think that's all the time we have today. Thank you, Dr. Licon. Thank you, Bella, for coming in and joining us. We talked about the PCDBI, the history, its relevancy in the dairy industry, and sort of the future prospects that it has. So thank you very much for listening. You've been listening to the
You, me, and the PCC.
Program funding for the PCC comes from the USDA. The show was created by Moses Mike, the faculty production lead. Guests for this episode included Carmen Licon and Isabella Ribeiro. This vodcast is a production of the AGC 225 class called Digital Communications in Agriculture. The student team that produced the show included Rachel Majarian and Victoria Paolini, the directors, hosts Joe Aguiar and Kaylen Jaime, lead technicians Alexia Vasquez and Isabella Ribeiro, and the technical team Jenna Fitzpatrick, Julia Fry, Caitlin Browder, Caitlin Cardoza, Yuri Ramirez, and Madeline Tellison. You, Me, and the PCC is a digital media collaboration between the Agricultural Education and Communications Department and the Pacific Coast Coalition's DVII through Fresno State University. These credits were read by Audrey Herrera. It's me!